and get psyched. Ever walk into a room and forget why you actually went in there? Well, apparently it happens to a lot of us, and it even has a name. Dr. Janine Hubbard, thankfully she didn't forget why she was here. She's going to be here next to talk about all of this in just a moment. Welcome back to First Edition. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly forgot why you were there? Well, you're not alone. It's actually so common that it even has a name. It's called either Roomnesia, or you may have heard it called the doorway effect. Well, in this week's Get Psyched, Dr. Janine Hubbard and I discuss this phenomenon and if there's anything we can do about it. Hello.
Hello. I saw this when I went, I do that all the time. Let's talk about it.
So what is Roomnesia, or the doorway effect?
Well, it's a side effect kind of our memory encoding system. So what happens is people, when they're in a room, kind of absorb all the information and everything that's in there. And then when they move to a different physical space, or sometimes just move to a different physical activity, our brain sometimes kind of logs and records what happened in the one room and kind of starts processing what happens in the next room, almost like it's a different file. And so as opposed to, well, I just left the door and walked out, and you think of that just being one continuous experience, it's like our brains encode and chunk it into two separate things, which then means we're suddenly like, wait, what was I doing? Why was I coming out here? Oh, right, I needed to pee. Yeah, you'd think we wouldn't forget these things. But it is amazing how that the doorway effect can really impact us.
So, I just thought it was a menopausal thing. I thought that's why it happens to me. So who's more prone for this?
Sure. So yes, and I didn't find it in the research, but I'm going to assume perimenopause, menopausal. Anybody who has difficulties with attention, concentration, and focus is going to be more prone to it. But in reality, anybody who's multitasking, so pretty much all of us. And then there's some note that people who have some real sensory sensitivities, so people who really notice differences in like temperature or lighting or sounds or smells in various rooms may be more prone to it. But the reality is it's something that happens to all of us.
So it's nothing to be overly concerned about.
You are not, it's not Alzheimer's, you're not losing your mind, you're not losing your memory. It just means there's a little glitch in how your brain is encoding information in one room and not necessarily providing a smooth transition to the next experience.
Because, I've been known to walk upstairs to grab socks and come down with a hairbrush and then and bare feet
Well, literally moments before we went on air, one of our crew in the newsroom, I thought he was teasing me about the segment, came out and said, "Where am I going? What am I doing?" And it was legit. We just watched it live in action just before the show. So biggest thing, folks, is if you can be mindful and intentional, I know, easier said than done. If it's something that you find really distressing, kind of trying to think, okay, I need to avoid those distractions. I need to very intentionally say, almost before I leave the room, I am leaving the room because I am doing X. And if you can kind of do that very intentionally, that will help with the transition if it's something that bothers you. And then otherwise, kind of like we've been doing here tonight, sometimes we just have to laugh at ourselves and
have
go,
a little giggle.
You know what? I'll figure it out eventually.
I know we talked about, people that this happens to, which is everybody. But it's not just older people. It's not just people in their 30s, 40s, 50s and up. It can happen to teens even?
Oh, yeah. Have you met a distracted teen or multitasking teen? And again, obviously, this is not something that has received the extensive research that some of the other topics we've looked at has, but as far as we can tell, this really does seem to be something, again, the more distracted you are, or the other piece is people with working memory issues. That also ties into ADHD, which we see in young kids. So, I mean, honestly, that's sometimes part of the diagnostic criteria, where I'm asking, do you ever send them upstairs to get their sweater and you find them playing with their dinkies? So, that can be part and parcel of it. But the reality is, if you struggle with working memory, which is juggling a lot of information in your head at the same time, one of the things people learn to do is to chunk. So I'm only having to think about remembering a phone number. You need to remember the first 3 digits and the last 4 digits. But you can remember those as 2 chunks of information as opposed to 7 different digits. That's a way to save on your working memory. If you're moving from one room, chunk information, move to the next room, chunk the information. Same kind of idea. So you may see that more in people just as a coping technique for working memory issues.
All right. Well, Dr. Hubbard, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks. We had fun.
We did.